Welcome to the veterinary technician track in reference to your pathway for becoming a veterinary technician specialist. Today, we're going to be going over the pathway to becoming a veterinary technician specialist. At this moment, I want to thank the Veterinary Immersion Plan and the sponsors of this session and having us here with you today. So a little bit about myself. My name is Kamaya Tong. I'm a licensed veterinary technician and a veterinary technician specialist in small animal internal medicine. So a bit of a background on me professionally. I am a graduate of LaGuardia Community College's Associates in Applied Science Veterinary Technology program. And that is a 2-year program. After graduating from the veterinary technology program, I obtained my licensure in New York State, where I then worked in general practice for about 5 years. After working in general practice and attending actually a session, something like this, a conference, I became interested in pursuing my veterinary technician specialty. And that's where I then became a small animal internal medicine service technician at the Schwarzman Animal Medical Center. During that time, you learn about technician and technician burnout and things like that. So I was thinking about having a backup or fallback career. So I attended Hunter College and obtained my bachelor's in arts in English, thinking that I was going to become a English teacher. Oops, sorry about that. After obtaining my bachelor's in English, once I was able to fulfill the core requirements, I pursued my VTS in small animal medicine, which I obtained in 2016. At this moment, I'm currently working as a licensed technician, but also working as a clinical educator for assistants and LVTs at the Schwarzman Animal Medical Center. So I just wanted to make sure you get a little bit of introduction about me, and then we'll get right into the session today, which is going to be discussing the pathway to becoming a VTS. So our goals and objectives for today is going to kind of just go over the basic requirements for becoming a credentialed veterinary technician. We're also going to identify professional associations that are going to be available for veterinary technicians. And segue into that, we're going to be talking about the veterinary technician specialties. Using my experience in applying for my VTS in small animal internal medicine, we're kind of going to delve into the application process for you to obtain your VTS, and then talk about career opportunities that's going to be available for credentialed technicians and also for VTSs. If you have any questions, feel free. I'm going to give you my contact information at the end, but I just wanted to make sure that we are clear on our objectives for today. So I think before we begin, we must first define and understand what it is to be a veterinary technician. So a veterinary technician is a technician that is graduated from a AVMA, sorry, my thing is popping back and forth, an AVMA, CVTEA, or Canadian Veterinary Medical Association accredited program. A veterinary technician typically would obtain an associate's in applied science in veterinary technology, completing a 2-year program. A veterinary technologist, on the other hand, is a graduate of a AVMA, CVTEA, or the CVMA accredited program, and they usually obtain a bachelor's in science and complete a 4-year veterinary technology program. So just for a little bit of a clarification, there is a slight difference between a veterinary technician and a veterinary technologist. And for the purpose of this discussion at the moment, the difference is going to be whether or not you obtained a 4-year degree or you obtained a 2-year degree. So now, in order to be an AVMA CVTEA accredited program, the American Veterinary Medical Association created the Committee on Veterinary Technician Education and Activities. And this committee is what accredits veterinary technology programs to ensure that they're providing quality veterinary technology specific education experience for their students, and also to be sure that the students are graduating with the necessary knowledge and skills necessary to practice as a veterinary technician or as a veterinary technologist. So in addition to graduating, once you've completed your 2-year, your 4-year program, you will then qualify to sit and take what's called the National Veterinary Technician National Exam. So the American Association of Veterinary State Boards owns and administers the examination only. So this exam is going to be used by a lot of the programs to basically evaluate the competency of their entry-level technicians to make sure that they have the knowledge and the experience required to be then qualified to credential themselves as veterinary technicians. The VTNE is offered 3 times a year, usually between April 15th and May 15th, July 15th, and November 5th, July 15th and August 15th, November 15th and December 15th. So those are your application windows. Again, the AAVSB only provides the exam. They own the exam, and they're the ones that provide the issuing for you to take that exam. If for some reason you do not qualify or you did not go through the regular pathways by graduating from an AVMA accredited program, there are certain states, actually 3 states, Alaska, California, and Wisconsin, that will provide alternate pathways for you to be able to qualify to take the VTNE. These are the only states that will allow you to sit for that specific exam and use the alternate pathways. Additionally, the AAVSB also provides a pathway called PAVE for international students that will need to be certified or credentialed within their state to be able to sit for the exam. With that being said, not all states or jurisdictions will actually use the VTNE as a qualification for you to register or to become a credentialed technician. But I definitely wanted to mention that is not only that your degree that is going to be required, that some states, in addition to that, require that you sit and pass the VTNE. So once you've sit and you've passed the VTNE and you've also completed the necessary requirements, you can then now apply to your specific state or your institution for your credentialing, for your credentials. So each state requires specific credential requirements. Most states will require you to have a degree from an AVMA or CVMA accredited school. Plus or minus, some states will require you to pass the VTNE, and in addition to that, you will have to be able to pay that application fee. So what is the difference between an LVT, an RVT, and a CVT? When it comes to credentialing, these are the 3 major credentials that you would obtain once you've completed and apply for the requirements. A licensed veterinary technician, a registered veterinary technician, and a certified veterinary technician, for the most part, have completed all the same requirements. The only difference with the initials that you're going to obtain is going to be what state or what jurisdiction that you're going to be obtaining the credentialing from. So just for a bit of a background, this is basically the initial steps for you to become a legally working technician within your specific jurisdictions. So what are some career opportunities that are available for credentialed technicians? Some opportunities are going to be including working in general practice. You can also take up a job, whether it's going to be in shelter medicine, wildlife or zoo medicine, working in a diagnostic laboratory, or even becoming a surgery technician or working in emergency specialty or referral medicine. In addition to that, one of the things that another career opportunity that is available for you is going to be working in research or in a laboratory setting. And I put an asterisk next to this specific career opportunity because in addition to obtaining your credentials within your state to work as a credentialed veterinary technician, the American Association for Laboratory Animal Sciences also provides a certification for those specifically interested in laboratory animal sciences. You can then go onto the AALAS website, and it gives you details in reference to obtaining this certification that is specifically for laboratory animal technicians. You can work as an assistant laboratory technician or ALAT. You could get credentials or certifications as a laboratory animal technician, or in addition to that, you become a laboratory animal technologist. I think all of these certifications and the levels of certification within the research setting is all going to be based on your experience and the amount of time and education and certification requirements that is going to be for this specific certification. Again, I provided the website here, the aals.org. so you're able to get additional information about that specific certification. So that is a next level for those that might be interested in research or interested in laboratory sciences specifically. So now at this point, you have obtained your certification. If you're interested, you're now pursuing your goal of getting your laboratory animal certification, if that's what you want. But in addition to that, once you have obtained your certification as a RVT, CVT, or LVT, one of the things I tend to encourage is the understanding of your specific state, your associations. So the National Association for Veterinary Technicians of America is the association that is the governing board, which is a member-driven association that is dedicated to the advancement of veterinary nursing and veterinary medicine for technicians. So NAVTA is actually our national board. They provide, obviously, a professional association. They work towards advocacy, awareness, professional development, and for you to be aware of what's going on within the profession as it relates to veterinary technicians. In addition to NAVTA, you also have available to you your state level associations. So your state level association are work in conjunction with your national association, but it's in a more obviously smaller level. So you have a direct direct connection to the national association through your state association. So for me, as a LVT practicing in New York, my association is going to be the New York State Association for Veterinary Technicians. They actually just recently had a seminar, their spring seminar, and it's a great opportunity for you to connect and network and meet other fellow technicians and to understand what's kind of going on in the industry at the moment. For you guys that I know that you guys are right now located in Maine, you have the Maine Veterinary Technician Association, and that is going to be your state specific association that will have information regarding your specific state. If you are as an active student in an AVMA accredited program, there is available student chapters as well that you can join in advance of your credentialing so that you can begin to start getting involved in those in your associations. I always encourage everyone to be involved in your association because as a member of your association, you are a little bit more aware of what's going on within the industry as well. So just to backtrack a little bit in reference to the association, that will just kind of segue into us understanding the creation of the veterinary technician specialties. So in 1994, NAFTA created the Committee on Veterinary Technician Specialties. And this was in response to the need, although they felt that there was a need to develop veterinary technician specialty organizations as technicians were becoming more and more specialized. And as a result, NAFTA created this committee, and the committee is kind of oversees the academies, and they kind of go through the credentialing process and the application process through the CVTS. So currently right now, I guess I was going to ask this question during the session to say, guess how many academies or how many specialty academies we do have available. So at the moment, there are 16 NAFTA and CVTS recognized academies. All these academies are in various stages of recognition. And the first academy that's ever been created was the Academy of Veterinary Emergency and Critical Care Technicians and Nurses. And they were the first ones to be recognized as a specialty academy by NAFTA and the CVTS. And as of recently, they actually added the nurses to their name, acknowledging the fact that they are not only just a state or national level association, but they're actually an international location, having members that can legally use the title as veterinary nurse within their jurisdiction to use that term. So some of these members of this academy are members located in the UK, Australia, and also New Zealand. So as that academy, as of a few years ago, they added the "and nurses" to their designation. So in addition to the first academy, we also have the Academy of Veterinary Dental Technicians. We have the fully recognized Academy of Internal Veterinary Technicians, and we also have the Academy of Veterinary Technicians in Anesthesia and Analgesia. The other 4 fully recognized academies are going to be the Academy of Veterinary Zoology Medicine Technician, the Academy of Veterinary Technicians in Clinical Practice, they have the Academy of Veterinary Clinical Pathology Technicians, and finally, the final fully recognized academy is the Academy of Veterinary Nutrition Technicians. So what about the other academies? So there are several other academies, and they're, like I said, in various stages of recognition. These academies have met the requirements to be considered provisional recognition with the Academy of Veterinary Behavior Technicians and the Academy of Equine Technicians currently in a probationary status. So we do have several of these academies, all with various requirements and applications that can then pique the interest of you as a specific technician that might be interested in pursuing additional education and credentialing based on your interest in a specific specialty. So now you decide, okay, I want to become a VTS. And if this is something that you want to work on, you want to work towards, what would be your goals, or what would be your next step? My biggest advice when it comes to becoming a VTS is to do your research, your research, your research. Every academy and every specialty would have different requirements. Although some of them are fairly similar, you definitely want to make sure that you do your investigations by one, get it involved in your national association, connecting with those specific academies, going onto their website to figure out what is required for you to become a member of that specific academy. The biggest things for a lot of people that I tend to reiterate is the need to understand what it is that you need as a part of your pre-application process. I would say for the most part, becoming a VTS takes about at least from the start of applying, it will take at least about 2 years from beginning to end, and that does not include making sure that you have all of the specific core requirements for the academy and fulfilling all of those pre-application requirements. Deadlines are also a big thing that people tend to forget when they are applying for the academies. All the academies that don't have similar deadlines, all the deadlines could be fairly different. So you want to make sure that you're definitely doing your research to understand what is required prior to you thinking that I'm going to be gung-ho, I'm going to go straight for and applying for a specialty. A lot of times, most of the time when you are ready and you've completed the pre-application process, the biggest requirement is going to be for you then to submit or let them know that you intend to apply. Intent to apply. That is just saying that, hey, I fulfill the requirements, expect my documentation to be submitted to you guys to show that I'm interested in applying for this specialty academy. So for now, I actually went through that process, and we'll take a little bit more of a deep dive into the process I had to do specifically to join AIMVT and to give you a bit more insight of the general application process for most of the academies, but I'm going to be specifically focused on the AIMVT Academy. So a little bit about the Academy of Internal Medicine for Internal Medicine for Veterinary Technician. It is academy that basically a group of veterinary technicians from various backgrounds, whether it's going to be a university, teaching hospitals, specialty practice, or anything like that, they all came together and realized that they need to form a special organization that is specific for internal medicine technicians. Their goals is always to promote and advance the skills and disciplines within internal medicine, and just basically to promote and advanced credentialed technicians. Within the AIMVT, there is 5 subspecialties. So there is one major group, and within the group, there's 5 specific subspecialty under the internal medicine designation. So that's going to be your cardiology, your equine, your neurology, large animal, oncology, and my subspecialty, small animal internal medicine. Again, the mission for AIMVT is to promote the interest and advancements of the skills of the veterinary technicians. We work together with obviously the veterinarians and the veterinary support team to advocate and promote and provide excellent patient care and education. In addition to that, we really try to recognize and push for specialty technicians that are working to advance and lead the way in learning about the profession as a whole. And we do that through, again, awareness, advocacy, participation, and also through discussions within the group. So that is going to be the AVT Academy. And then we'll get into a little bit more details about the process for you to apply for this academy. So when I started the application process initially, it's a little bit different now than it was a few years ago. I'm not going to say how many years, a few years ago, but as a part of the application process, recently they've actually divided the application process into two parts. When I applied, all of it was required at one time. Usually you had to submit your application by the deadline, which was September 30th. But now they've kind of divided it into a two-part process, and it makes it a little bit easier for a lot of people. So the part one of the process is going to be making sure that you kind of pre-qualify. So you have all the core requirements necessary to say that you can apply for this certification or for this specialization. So that will start again the same way when you apply to become credentialed within your state. You need to prove that you are a graduate from an AVMA or CVMA accredited program or its equivalent, and you must also provide your state-specific credentials. You need to make sure that you are a registered, certified, or licensed veterinary technician within your state, and that your licensure is active and that you're within good standing in order to apply for this certification. In addition to that, and this is kind of a part of the pre-application process that I kind of talked about, is going to be that you need to qualify. In order to qualify, you have to have specific work experience that you have while you are a credentialed technician. So for AMVT, you needed to have at least 3 years of experience with at least 6,000 hours of work. Overtime does not count. It's just regular, a full-time work shift that you have to work with a minimum amount of hours within your subspecialty. So for example, for me, it was a little bit straightforward because I ended up working in small animal internal medicine for 9 years straight. So when I did end up qualifying for my VTS, I was able to prove that I had my 6,000 hours and 3 years of experience within small animal internal medicine specifically. So it's pretty straightforward for me. There may be some individuals that will be working in general practice or working within a different subspecialty, but it is required that you have at least 4,500 hours within your specific subspecialty to qualify. In addition to your work experience, you are then required to complete a minimum of 40 hours of continuing education. I know for your licensure and for certification, things like the purposes, you are required to complete a certain amount of hours to stay within or keep your licensure valid. For New York State, for example, we need to do 24 hours of continuing education credits as licensed technicians within 3 years. So in addition to those 24 hours that we need just to keep my licensure, I had to do an additional 40 hours, a minimum, to be able to qualify with my continuing education credits in order to apply for the VTS designation. Within my subspecialty, the hours needed to be, so for example, if I went to a conference and I completed a 1-hour CE that was on maybe emergency and critical care or toxicities, that would not necessarily count towards my VTS in small animal internal medicine versus me going to a session that may be for IMHA. If it's going to be a session that's going to be given in person, you will be able to make sure that it is race approved or its equivalent. And it must, and as a part of a session, it usually doesn't matter if it's given by a VTS or diplomat. But if you take the route of fulfilling your continuing education credit through the online option, those lectures, webinars, or that CE credit must be presented by a VTS or a diplomat. and especially a diplomat specifically within your subspecialty. So this again is just the beginning of the part one process. And I tend to mention the work experience thing first because you will need to really work on that a couple of years because it ends up being a 3 to 5 year process to make sure that you have those required hours in addition to having the specific required continuing education credits. I ended up having to go to several internal medicine specific conference. So I'm able to basically obtain and qualify for the specific and have the specific amount of continuing education credits that's required. These days, there's a lot of sessions that's available online that's offered by diplomats and VTSs that will also qualify for that as well. In addition to that, the part one process also requires you to submit a sample of your case, your case reports or your case logs. And these are going to be 4 small cases that the application committee will then review to basically provide you with feedback to make sure that you're on the right track in reference to logging your case logs and your case reports. I will also get into the specifics about a case report when we get into the part 2 process. Once you've already done all that, in addition to that, for part 1, you then will pay a $25 application fee. You will submit all this information. It's usually due by March 15th of your application year. You will submit that information, and that information will be reviewed and evaluated by the committees and by the academy. And once they decide that you have passed that part 1 process, then you will move on to the part 2 application process. So the part 2 application process is due no later than September 30th of your application year. You would then have to submit the application fee, which I think is about $50. You would then be able to submit what are going to be called your case logs. So these are going to be short, brief cases that kind of highlight specific skills that you've been involved in when you're doing the case. Those cases is going to be a minimum of 50. You could submit up to 75. I recommend people to submit somewhere between 60 and 65 case logs, just because that'll basically give us an idea or a blurb of what your experience is and how are you in reference to mastering those specific advanced skills. In addition to your case logs, you will also need to submit 4 in-depth case reports. So those 4 in-depth case reports are going to be pulled from your case logs, and you're going to take these specific cases and get into really in real detail about the case so that we have an understanding that our clarity of you understanding the disease process, the treatment, and everything that's related to that case. It'll also give us a little bit of insight as to your understanding of the skills and the mastery that's involved in knowing and using those specific skills. And that ties into then you're also going to be required to submit what's called our advanced skills mastery list. So this is not a checklist. You're not checking any, it is a list of skills. Some things that include maintaining a chest tube placement, placing specific catheters, so lumen catheters, advancements in reference to laboratory testing and processing, anesthetic protocols and creating those protocols. And another example is being able to perform a physical exam on your patient. So these advanced mastery lists is going to be where you highlight through your case logs where you're able to use and prove that you know how and you've mastered those skills, and you're required to submit and complete that mastery list. In addition to that, applicants are asked to submit examination questions. So it's going to be about 3 examination questions. And by September 30th, we ask that you fulfill and complete submit a letter of recommendation, usually from a VTS or a diplomat within your subspecialty. So you think the process is going to be done, but once you're done with part 2, your application is then evaluated thoroughly, and we discuss with you based on your case reports and the things that you submitted. Once you have completed this requirement, then you'll get a notification that your application has been accepted, and then you'll be able to sit for the examination. So once your part 1 and part 2 is accepted, you then have to go through an examination process, which usually happens in June, and it occurs at the ACVIM, which is the International Conference for Internal Medicine, and it only occurs in June once a year, and the locations vary. This year, it's going to be in Philadelphia. Upon passing your examination, then you're going to be notified that you've passed your exam and that you're now a VTS in your specific subspecialty. When that happens, the following year, you usually re-attend ACVIM, and that is when you are officially pinned to say that you are now a VTS in small animal internal medicine or whichever subspecialty that you're in. So for me, I passed my exam in 2017, and I ended up having my pinning ceremony, I believe, in 2018. So once you are certified or you have the designation as a VTS in the under AMVT, you are required to recertify and complete the necessary CE to stay within up to date and within the specialty. So there's several options for you to recertify. You can take the exam, which I've never known anyone to actually retake the exam. Or you can also qualify for recertification by completing the required continuing education credits and be able to accumulate points within the point system for recertification by completing the CE and being involved in your professional associations. In addition to that, using the point system to gain the 60 points, if you do things like write a newsletter, write a chapter in a paper, submit a publication or anything like that, you do also gain points in that regard for you to basically stay within the know and be active within your academy. So once you qualify and you make those 60 points, every 5 years, you are required to complete the recertification. In addition to that, they do also ask us to submit examination questions as well, just for us to continue to make sure that we are in the know within the profession. The other option, which I don't know too many people that's also has taken that, if you do not recertify within the 5 years using the examination process or the CE process, then you can opt out and decide that you do not want to recertify. If you do not recertify, then you don't become or no longer hold a designation as a VTS within your subspecialty or within your specialty. So with that being said, that's kind of been like generally speaking, the entire process of applying for VTS. I think that a lot of people are not aware of how many VTSs are out there, how many academies are available, and these academies are continuing to grow. Just like in anything in veterinary medicine, we are at the forefront of advancing advancing veterinary technology, and these academies are a strong point in being able to continue to do that. So what are some career opportunities that are available? Again, just like you would be working as an LVT, there are other additional opportunities that come out for you as a VTS. You can become a VTS in VTS for surgery. You can work in emergency medicine, specialty or referral. They have a lot of VTSs within those subspecialties. So you become an ophthalmology veterinary technician specialist. You can become a dental technician. For me, I was fortunate enough to find my way into education and training, but you also have options like becoming a practice management, working as working as a lecturer, writing for papers and submitting publications, or you can also get profession options and career opportunities in pharmaceutical and laboratory sales. Again, I want to be able to take this opportunity to thank the Veterinary Immersion Plan for giving me this opportunity to speak with you guys. And if you have any questions or concerns, you feel free to reach out to me. And